Hi, everyone. You're watching Drive the Lightning, the positively charged EV channel.
Hey, thanks for being here on Drive the Lightning, the positively charged EV channel. We have with us Mr. Ben Need from Arizona. This guy is unique because he drives a car with probably, we'll find out from him, 50 to 60 miles range. We're going to find out how he lives with that, where did he find it, and a whole lot more. Ben, thank you for being here with us.
Well, thank you, Chad and Sarah. I appreciate the opportunity to chat about electric cars in general, and I know also we want to be touching bases today on Sono Motors, which is something that really fascinates me as well.
For sure. Yeah, we'll definitely get to that. That's one of our favorite subjects too. But I want to talk about the car you're driving right now. What is it you drive? What's your everyday car?
My everyday car is a 2012 Mitsubishi I-Miev. And I think I sent you some pretty pictures of that the other week. So, when you put this video together, you might want to flash some of those up there. It was a car. I'll start at the beginning. I got really interested in electric cars, say around 2010, when I heard that Nissan was coming out with the Leaf.
That's our
I,
car. That's
yeah,
what we
you have
got.
one. Yeah. And Tucson, here in Tucson, we were a test market for the Leaf. So those cars came into this town fairly early. And I knew some people, well, I still know them, that have these cars. And I run into people all the time that, have gotten used ones, like me, used electric cars several years after they were new and in their prime. Well, the iMev was one of the ones that I got to sort of try out. A friend of mine, a fellow member of an electric car club, was going out of town and said, "Would you like to borrow this thing for a week?" And I had an opportunity to do that with the Leaf. And because I helped organize a plug-in event, National Plug-in Day, back in 2012, the local Chevy dealer gave me the opportunity to have a similar live-in situation with the then new plug-in hybrid Volt. So I had those three cars. And when you're living in Arizona and you look across the barbed wire wall there to California, the possibilities of getting an EV are both remote and very good, because at that point they were introducing cars that were called compliance vehicles, and technically these were the electric vehicles that the motor vehicle companies had to make to fulfill their requirements to sell any car in California. A certain percentage of them had to be electric or zero emissions, and there were a host of them, say right around 2011 to 2013. Trouble was, if those cars, they could not be purchased new by Arizona residents or serviced here for the most part. And when they became used, we were unsure which ones would be available for service here in Arizona. Really, about my only possibilities were Leaf and iMev. These were 50 state cars. I was not in the position to be buying a new vehicle. I was going to be buying used. And again, I had a loaner for about a week, and the iMev just was the one that talked to me. It was the least expensive. It was the most practical in terms of storage space. The range was not so much an issue. I am an in-town guy. I live in a city of 1 million people, and as one of those photos I'll show that you might show that I gave you, beautiful mountain scenery. That's a 15-mile drive from my house. There's lots of things to do and explore in a car that of that range, and I didn't find it much of a hardship, to tell you the truth.
Now, Ben, if I read correctly, your car new, the 2012 Mitsubishi I-Miev, got about 62 miles of range new. Is that right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now you bought it in 2015, 7 years later. What is your usable range? What are you finding you get on a charge?
Well, I always seem to average a little bit more. Perhaps I drive a little bit more cautiously and relaxed than the typical EPA cycle, which also has highway miles or highway speeds factored in. And you can live in Tucson and never have to get on the interstate. You can get anywhere you need to go on the surface streets. So, 45 mile per hour clip. I typically 70 per
Wow.
charge. Yeah, that's just careful driving, versus the EPA cycle. The other things to think about here with that was I got the car used. It had a warranty on the battery, and my battery actually started to fade a bit right around 2020. And the local Mitsubishi dealer, Keibudo, at that time finally had an EV tech. I used to have to make arrangements to go to Phoenix, to tell you the truth, 100 miles away
Wow.
to
Oh,
get some service. But fortunately, the local dealer was here, and they had an electric tech at that point. And they said, "Bring it in. You might be having some warranty issues." And sure enough, they made it very easy for me to have Mitsubishi send me a brand new battery, which I
Nice.
got in 2020. And that's what, just 2.5 years ago. I figure I've got another 6 or 7 years on this car.
that's
I can wait.
fantastic. That's something,
Excellent.
yeah,
Smart.
I hope people are paying attention to what Ben just said out there because you can buy a used EV if you know what you're getting for a warranty.
Right.
Like our 2016 Leaf, we still
Right.
have battery warranty.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
have the
Yeah, 'cause
prospect of maybe.
right, because a lot of people, it's a barrier to entry for them because they're afraid they're going to buy a used electric vehicle and the battery is going to go bad in a year and then they're not going to have a car or they're going to
Yeah.
have to pay a lot to replace it. But check the warranties that are out there because a lot of them are very generous.
For
I'm the
sure.
second owner. Some of these warranties may not apply if you're the third owner, or if
Okay.
Yeah.
if it has a lot of miles on it. My car only had about 18,000 miles on it when I bought it,
Wow.
and it was 2.5 years old. And I've only put on another 30,000 miles on top of that. I'm not a heavy driver. But I think the Mitsubishi warranty was something like 10 years or 100,000 miles,
Oh, good.
whichever comes first.
Yeah.
And 10 years has come first.
Right, for
They
sure.
gave me a new battery, but that one is not warranted. If that one goes,
Okay.
I'm done. But I might have this car for another 7 or 8 years, and I will have gotten a 15-year or thereabouts service life out of this vehicle. So you're not going to be check and see,
Yeah, dig
are you
deep.
the second owner or the third owner? How many miles? How many years? Some of the early OEM EVs, like the 2012 series IMieves and Leafs, are probably going to be grandfathered out of battery
Right.
warranties at this point.
By now.
And the Leaf, unfortunately, had some early battery issues. A lot of them here with Arizona owners. They just didn't quite get the whole cooling thing happening with the packs early on. Mitsubishi was a little bit better there. Basic air cooling, but nothing extraordinary. The battery chemistry for those cars would have been lithium manganese oxide, which is not the best in terms of heat degradation. The later ones work better. It's funny that at the time there were so many people that I knew that were doing converted electric cars, and they were getting lithium iron phosphates from China
So
back
they were
then.
ahead of the game. They were ahead of the manufacturers.
Yeah.
Cool.
The downside, so to speak, of that chemistry is the lower energy density of 3.2 volts per cell versus 3.7 volts per cell on some of these other formulas. But if something did go wrong, you might have some nasty smoke. Whereas, and also heat. They're very good about heat. The only thing lithium iron phosphate doesn't really have going for it is that when you do hit those freezing temperatures and you try to charge, you can damage your battery. But if you have some sort of heat protection in your battery pack,
Right.
I think that solves that.
We will be right back with more of our conversation with Ben in just a moment. But first, we need to say thank you.
Thank you so much to all the members of our channel. You guys keep the wheels rolling on the Positively Charged EV channel. We also want to thank Bob. Bob, you bought us coffee. Thank you so much. It means so much to us. Speaking of coffee, we have some new members of the Mug Club, and we want to say thank you so much to everyone who has bought a mug on Mug Club.
Yeah, let's look at the map. Here we can see, here's Canada. We're still holding steady.
Yep.
And then in the United States, we're starting to fill up all of these states. Do you see yourself on the Mug Club? thank you. What it means is you mugs bought mugs, so these mugs can get back to San Diego for some in-person Aptera coverage. Thank you for the support of the channel. We can't thank you enough. And Sarah,
Yeah.
let's go back and learn more from Ben.
Yeah.
Well, you just taught our audience something, Ben, that I really hope they heard. If you live in town and it's going to be your round town car, we found the exact same thing you found. Our Nissan Leaf does everything we need to do in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And that includes for us, we can get on the highway because you can get across town real quick on the highway. But if you're driving 50 or 60 miles a day, look into a used Mitsubishi, a used Nissan Leaf, a used, if you have the guts to do it, Ford Focus EV or Spark EV, you know, or very interesting. So it's good to know that we're not the only ones.
Those are some other cars that you just mentioned that have eventually found their way into Arizona. The Chevy dealers, even though they would not sell you a new Spark EV back around, say, 2013, 2014, used ones, the Chevy dealers that already were servicing the Volt were taking in used Spark EVs. And those cars, a lot of those came into first to Phoenix and then down to Tucson. Then the Fiat 500e is another one of those that
cute little car.
I knew here in 2015 or so. But several years later, there were enough used ones in California, and whoever runs Fiat now, they said, "Sure, we'll service those in Arizona." So those are other used EVs that were kind of compliance car type material that did make it over here eventually.
It was interesting about, since we're talking about compliance cars, we have a channel member who has a Chevy Spark EV in Atlanta, and he loves it.
Oh, yeah.
Several people, another channel member, as a matter of fact, had the Ford Focus EV, and it just died. But, you know, he got so many years out of it. But wouldn't you agree that it's like the manufacturer did not care about these cars? They wanted to be able to sell in California, mission accomplished. They didn't brag about them. They didn't advertise them. They didn't talk about them. And they accidentally made a couple of really good electric cars on accident. Hey, Ben, can we dig into a little bit on your purchasing? Because we talk about this a lot, our purchasing experience. We bought a car on the internet and we drove out of state and picked it up. We have other friends. In fact, my mom bought her BMW i3 on Carvana. They delivered it to her house. I'd love to hear your experience.
Yeah. How'd you find your IMiev? And then what was the purchasing process like?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no one here in Arizona had one. I mean, I could get a new one from the dealer in Phoenix. The Tucson dealer at that time had no connection with the electric line, and there were no used ones really to be had. California, it's only 400 miles from here for the LA area, and I figured, okay, I'm going to start looking on the internet. And at the time, 30 or 40 cars popped up, so I had my choice, and I knew enough about the particular car that I knew I wanted one that had the high-speed charging port. Even if I wasn't going to be using that port all the time, I wanted to have that just in case. The websites like cars.com, cargurus.com, there's several like that will they network with all the dealers, and you can just bring up a whole list and say, I want to know about all the cars that are like this within 500 miles or whatever. So that really helps you dial in the process right there. And then it's a matter of, right from those web pages, making contact with the dealer, either by phone or email.
I think it was Car Gurus we used to find our Leaf. So just exactly what you said.
Yeah, I think I found it on Car Gurus, as a matter of fact. And I just as a habit, I go there once every few weeks or a few months and check how many IMieves are there still for sale, how much are they costing. There's always, it seems, 12 to 15 around the country on any given day. And most of them are about what I paid for mine. About
really?
About $6,000 to $8,000 is typical. That's great.
I hope you're listening out there, whoever's watching this. I mean, you're talking to a guy here, Ben, who drives this car every day around town, and he's telling you they're available, and it's a great around town car. You know, you don't get this, Ben, you don't get this by searching the internet and looking up statistics and looking up reviews to get somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, because it's their everyday car. I mean, we can't thank you enough for sharing this with our audience.
Certainly, I'm happy to do it.
Sono Motors, you've been following this company, the Scion, for would you, since they started about 10 years ago, you've been
Yeah.
following this company. And like you mentioned, they've got the polymer pressed in solar panels into the polymer sides. And you actually have experience with a plastic bodied car polymer with the
Yes.
Saturn. And that's so that's interesting what you said, because I have heard people saying, you know, when it shrinks, it warps a little bit. And myself, that don't bother me. I don't think it bothers you.
Yeah. I mean, I have.
I like the little character.
Yeah, function
I have
over form.
issues with utility, and you know, I got over all that stuff years ago. The other thing about plastic panel cars, Sono is making that car in a factory in or hopes to be making it in a factory in Finland called Valmet, and Valmet also produced an electric car with molded panels back in the early, like right around 2009 or so. It
Oh,
was
really?
called
Oh,
Think City. And
right.
Ford had some interest in Think for a while, and then got out of it. But Think went independent right around 2000. I want to say 2009, and they had a very cute little two-door car, and some of those made it to the U.S. There was a plan to actually start producing them in Indiana, and it all just fell apart. You know, right around 2011 or so. Um, you know, I hope. I really hope Sono makes it. I don't want to be pessimistic on your positively charged EV channel here,
We
but
appreciate that.
when I first started corresponding with you after I commented on one of your written articles on YouTube, I made the guess. Okay, here it is. It's the end of December, and at that point they were, I don't know, 1,200, 1,100. I said by New Year's Day they need to be up to about 1750, about half of the goal.
Right.
And I just checked earlier before I joined you guys, and I have the statistic here, 1450.6, and we're now about 11 days to go.
It's tall order.
It
Yeah.
is up to, I believe at this point, mostly up to the people that have already put their deposits down.
Yeah.
I hope they really come to the bat. And I'm an old radio guy. I've been in radio for all my life, and public radio, where we ask for that money, and we need your money by the end of the week, you know, to make our goal and all that. And oftentimes in those sort of campaigns, there's a lull, you know, that last week or so. And then a lot of people seem to step up to the bat at the last minute.
Okay.
I really hope for Sono's sake that these folks in Europe who have already put the deposit down will just go to the bank and say, can you loan me the money for, yeah.
You know, they've been very busy. I don't know if you've been following them, but they are on tour, have been since September, and they're actually making sure people can see the car, touch the car, experience the car, ride in the car. And I'm hoping that all that hard work, all that elbow grease, you know, will cause, like you're saying, the lull is over. Time to ramp up to the finish.
So Ben, your IMiev isn't going to last forever. What's your next EV? If you had to choose one that's on the market today, what do you think you'd buy?
Wow. Probably a Chevy Bolt EV. I've been trying to talk my wife into one of those for a while. Again, I would go out of my way to buy one if it had LFP batteries in it. Right. And if it had some sort of basic vehicle to load scenario, even if it's nothing more than the little thing that you click into the J1772 that has a 15 amp outlet on the other end, that would be my, you know, really a dream car. The Scion, if it really is available, because it has that much more connectivity, and in terms of literally vehicle to house type of interfaces. And again, that solar on the skin is just great. You know, that's an icing on the cake for me. But certainly with the sort of driving that I do would be immensely useful in a town like Tucson. I'd probably never have to charge the car.
How cool would that be? If you had a car that you never had to charge, I mean, that
would be so nice.
It's gold standard.
Yeah.
And we sat in both of those cars, the Bolt at the Detroit Auto Show, the EUV, and the Scion. and the Scion was the most comfortable of those three cars.
Really?
Just as a
Yeah.
passenger, it's just a very comfortable
Yeah,
car.
and I felt size-wise that it was the Scion was more comparable to the Bolt EUV
Right, the bigger one.
than to the original
Yeah.
Bolt.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm going to be doing here this spring, I'm going to be taking my little electric car to an event it's actually a book festival, the Tucson Festival of Books, and part of the festival is mostly taken over by science research people at the U of A, but it's and literally anyone that is interested in science and technology can get an exhibit there. And I just found out the other week I'm going to be exhibiting for the second time. I was there in 2019. I brought a few electric cars in, including mine. This year I'm going back, and I'm going to just turn this over here for a second. Here, some interesting stuff. This is a solar generator. It's lithium iron phosphate battery, not a very big one, but it has a 600 watt inverter, and you can charge it with a bigger solar panel, a 100-watt solar panel, and you can do stuff like run little kitchen devices, efficient kitchen devices off these things. And even before I found this one, this one it seems to have the sweet spot in terms of performance and price, and it's called a Bluetti EB3A.
I've seen those, yeah.
So you can get they're often on sale. $230 some odd is a good price. I think they retail for $300. They're even worth $300. You can do a lot of things with this. It's got a solar port. Just plug your solar. It's literally sized for a 100-watt panel. All this stuff fits in your car. So I'm going to have a couple of these things, a couple of solar panels. They all came in my car. I didn't have to haul them in or do anything special. And I'll be doing little demonstrations on this sort of thing, because this is what, on a larger scale, what all these organizations such as Rewiring America, and another one that I really like what they're doing out there, Solar United Neighbors, who really want to put solar on everyone's roof and really get the utilities to finally embrace this stuff, especially in places like here in Arizona. And they're very big into electrification. You got the car already, but what are you doing in your house? You have a hot water heater. It should be, in this day and age, when it's time to replace it, get yourself a heat pump.
All right,
I
Ben,
think they're coming.
they're coming. Yeah, companies are working on it.
Yeah.
Ben, thank you so much. Oh, Lucky.
Hi, Lucky. Do you want to learn more about Sono Motors and their Scion project? Check out this video right here. You'll love it.
Yeah.
Well, you might not, but I hope you do.
If you like it, watch it to the end. If you don't like it, watch a minute of it, and then just keep watching it to the end.
Yeah. Then give it a chance.
Interesting conversation with interesting people. That's what you get
Yes.
on the Positively Charged EV channel. Thumbs up out there.
Yeah.